On today's show, the Rockets, are they really contenders? They're very good, but I don't know if they're complete contenders. I got a couple questions. I'm going to ask Jackson Gatlin of Locked On Rockets about them and more in today's Locked On Mavs. Stop it! Let's go! Stop! The number one pick will go to the Dallas Mavericks. Cooper Flagg will fly in Dallas.
Dogs, all of us, all five.
You are Locked On Mavs, your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Still can't leave. Your team every day.
I'm going to get a city like that.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks and the Houston Rockets, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Mavs for 10 years. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On Mavs your first listen, Locked On Rockets your first listen. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Joining me, I'm joining him. It's Jackson Gatlin from Locked On Rockets, native Houstonian, covering the Rockets for how long now?
6 years professionally.
6 years doing it, still grinding away over there in Houston in the sweltering humidity down the highway. Every time somebody talks about Houston, they mention humidity around here.
Hey man, you're not that much further north of me, okay? There's plenty of humidity to go around Texas, and there's plenty of it going on in Dallas right now, I'm sure.
At least you have a beach that's really nice, right?
Absolutely. It's pristine. The water's clear. You can see straight to the bottom. It's not murky or muddy or any of that stuff.
I've been to that beach so many times. I know every word of that is a lie.
Oh, man.
Today, we're going to talk about the two Texas teams and maybe the Spurs as well. We'll talk about the Mavs and the Rockets. We'll go through. I'll ask Jackson Rockets questions. He's going to ask me Mavs questions, and then we'll go free for all in the third and talk about whatever we want in this. So here's one to start off with. We had our squad show recently, and people were going in on the Rockets, really wanted to talk about them. And Matt Moore, specifically of Locked On NBA, Locked On Nuggets, really wanted you to convince him that they were a contender and that they were legit going to be number two. So do it right now. Convince me the Rockets should be number two in the West again next season.
Shout out to Matt Moore. I hope he made it back home to the old people's home after that squad show. But look, you know, ever trying to stir the spot.
First of all, on Matt Moore, we did a Mavs villain draft last Friday, and Matt Moore got picked.
Okay.
Isaac with his last pick picked HP basketball. He picked Matt Moore. And we were dying.
That's an incredible pick. I love that.
In the same list with Nico Harrison, Dwayne Wade,
wow. Hey,
Salvatore, who fixed the finals, and then it's Matt Moore on the same level.
Wow, that's actually incredible.
So
kudos to Isaac for that pick. All right, so look, you know, ever the pot stirrer is Matt Moore. So look, you know, the argument shouldn't really need to be all that compelling. You know, I know that in the squad show, you know, everybody kind of, you know, lost it a little bit, and there were some laughs being had when I said that the Rockets, they did overachieve a little bit last season. I think they overachieved relative to their expectations going into the year, but by no means do I think that last season was a fluke, because the year prior, Ime Udoka's first year, they went 41-41. They turned their defense around. They became a top 10 defense. They kind of, you know, answered some questions about, can Alperen Şengün be the backbone of a good defense in the NBA? And then they took that 41-41 season in which they lost Tari Eason for 3/4 of the year. They dealt with a lot of inconsistencies from the young guys playing winning basketball for the first time in their career. And then they elevated that success even further, right? Won 52 games, finished number 2 in a bloodbath of a Western Conference. And so while I do think they overachieved relative to where we thought they would be going into the season, I think optimistically I had them at maybe a 5 or 6 seed if everything broke really, really well for them this past year. And then they far surpassed that.
So you've kind of seen this as a rise. You've seen what built them to be this point, and that's why it didn't seem like a fluke to you.
Pretty much that. And the reason it's not a fluke is absolutely the defense. It's not like there's some flash in the pan overnight success where they buried you with a volume of threes and they've got this wild variance on a game-to-game basis. No, the defense is legit. The defense is legit every single night. Their biggest holdup has been the offensive side of the basketball, right? We've talked about it a lot. You've clowned on me for this, right? Having a worse offensive half-court rating than the Blazers and the Jazz. And
the Jazz. They were worse than the Jazz last year.
It was bad. I'm not going to pretend that it wasn't bad. And you know what they did? Despite it being so awful, they found ways to still put points on the board. They finished as the 12th best offense in the NBA because they were far and away the best rebounding team in the NBA. The running joke with the Rockets was sometimes it was better for them to just miss the first shot and go get the ball and then put an offensive rebound up and in. So now you add Kevin Durant to that mix, right? You didn't sacrifice your depth. In fact, you actually bolstered your depth by getting guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Dallas Mavericks fan favorite.
Go. That's my guy. I'm gonna
so Dodo is in a Rockets jersey now. I'm so sorry, Mavs fans, that y'all got to deal with Luka in a Lakers jersey. I don't know which one I hate worse. I don't know which one I hate worse, Dorian in a Lakers jersey or Dorian in a Rockets jersey if I'm a Mavs fan. You should, you know what, Mavs fans, we want to hear from you guys in the YouTube comments. Tell us which one is worse. It's probably going to be Luka in a landslide, but there might be some Dodo fans out there that feel some kind of way about seeing him wearing
Dorian
Rockets,
was
right?
a Laker. Like, I don't know which is worse. Like, if somebody walks by me with a Dorian Lakers jersey or a Dorian Rockets jersey, like, which one makes me like get irked a little bit?
Oh, you know what? All right, that's fair. You know, answer that question instead. That's a better one. That's why Nick gets paid the big bucks, guys. All right, so look, you do that, right? You get DFS, you add Clint Capella, return of, Clint Capella is awesome. He was a Houston fan favorite. He's now your third string center. He could be starting for some teams in the NBA, right? The Rockets have a legitimate amount of depth. And then you add Kevin Durant as their tip of the spear, right? He is now your alpha, your number one, your go-to bucket getter, which is what this team was sorely missing last year. They had that beautiful, awesome mantra, sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. But that kind of, played against them at times last year because they really didn't know on a night-to-night basis.
That was a beautiful mantra.
It was. I mean, they were bought in on it, man. Like, on any given night, it could have been Şengün was your best player, or Jalen, or Amin Thompson, or Dylan Brooks, or Fred VanVleet. But the downside, the catch-22 to that was who was going to take the big shot at the end of a game, right? If somebody wasn't hot that night, who were the reps going to, right? Who was taking all the shots? Sometimes you'd see Fred get a possession. Then Dylan would take a turnaround. Then Jalen would try to ISO. Then Şengün would get a post-up. And, like, it didn't work sometimes, and it played against them at the end of games a lot because they didn't know who their go-to guy was, what their hierarchy was offensively. Now they're going to have a clearly defined hierarchy, one of the best scorers to ever touch the ball. And I think that on paper, they look like they should be the second best team in the Western Conference behind the OKC Thunder.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that because I think that they have the legs to run. Like, there's going to be some teams in the West that are a little too old. No, Clippers, Mavericks. Like, there's going to be some of those teams that may not keep up in that way. And the Rockets do have young guys. They have guys that are still rising. They have young talent. And I am high on the Rockets, if anything, turning the shot selection of Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks into Kevin Durant. As a guy that covers the Mavericks and is personally invested in the Mavericks' success, anytime they played the Rockets, I was happy anytime Dylan Brooks went off on any of his, like, I'm going to take 15, 18 shots in this game because I am Dylan Brooks, hear me roar. Like, those moments, sometimes he went off, but every once in a while you watch the shots and go, oh my God. Like,
no, yeah, every once in a while you'd get the Dylan Brooks, like, CTE game, unfortunately, where he would just, like, take the worst shots imaginable. He actually did a pretty decent job of cutting down on those games. They were fewer and further between than his Memphis days, for sure. And he had his, two best shooting years of his entire NBA career in Houston. He cleaned up the shot profile a little bit, but you're right. They don't have to bank on, like, bailout Dylan Brooks turnaround fadeaways, which were cool when they went in, but it was like, dear God, is this the best offense that you can run? Ime, like, what's happening here? And it's because he didn't have that certifiable go-to guy, or if Jalen was getting clamped on the perimeter, somebody had to try and do something. Fred VanVleet was tried to be the savior at times of the offense by necessity, and his percentages took a hit because of that, because Fred VanVleet was never supposed to be the big gun for the Rockets. He's supposed to be an ancillary piece, a supporting act to the main guys. And, because they moved on from Jalen Green, they added a certifiable main guy in Kevin Durant who can shoulder that burden. I think it's going to look really, really good.
The thing that I get stuck on with the Rockets is their guard rotation. It's VanVleet starting, Amin Thompson probably like at the 2. Then you got Reed Shepherd coming off the bench. I got Aaron Holiday coming off the bench. Maybe like Josh Okogie. And then I don't know who else is playing a guard type role. Or we sending KD back to his Supersonics days and sending him back down to the 2. Like, is Tari Eason playing a big 2? I
mean, basic, like, yeah. Look, it's KD is the 2 on offense, right? We're in the era of positionless basketball, right? We can throw around, point guard, shooting guard, small forward power. It kind of doesn't matter, right? The Rockets basically have their primary ball handlers, which it's going to fall heavily on Fred VanVleet and Amin Thompson, which I think paints the picture that they're expecting a significant step forward from him as a ball handler this season. And then Reed Shepherd is supposed to be, year 2, Reed Shepherd, year 1 was pretty underwhelming, to put it lightly. He really wasn't ready to, play at the NBA level, and certainly not at the level that the Rockets were trying to play at. So he got a quarter of the season to try and showcase himself. They swapped him out for Aaron Holiday, didn't really look back. He's going to be expected to be able to hold down that backup point guard role in the minutes that Fred isn't on the floor, but they're also going to play a lot through Kevin Durant. The ball will be in his hands a lot. Alperen Sengun's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. You're going to have to play make a little bit by committee, but I also don't expect the identity of the Rockets offense to suddenly shift. They were dead last in the NBA last season in passes made per game. There's not going to be anything flashy about this offense. It's going to be quick, short, to the point. They're going to get to an Alpi post up and a kick out for a three, or let him go to work down low. They'll let KD operate from the elbow, get to his ISOs, maybe run some pick and roll with him. They're going to make quick, efficient reads. And the difference is now they've got guys who can actually convert at a very high level, taking some of these shots, which should help tremendously with the offensive rating and whatnot.
Interesting. It's a lot on Reed Shepherd, and I'm curious to see how he takes that this season and how he leads in it. But he was the number 3 pick. There's got to be some kind of expectation that you got to bring something eventually.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be that guy. Coming up, let's get into the Mavericks side of things. What are the Mavericks? Maybe that's just the question. What are they next year? Let's talk about all that and more coming up. Locked on Mavs, Locked on Rockets continues. Today's episode of Locked on Mavs, Locked on Rockets brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. I enjoy Monarch Money because I like charts. I like flow charts. I like to see different things. I'm a visual learner. I like to see where things are going. I like to see, and especially charts that are about me and about what I do and about my decision making, because there's so many different ways that I can spend money now with credit cards, debit cards. You've got 401ks, you've got student loans, you've got all kinds of things. Money's going in and out all over the place. And I love that Monarch Money puts it right in front of me, gives me a great flow chart, shows me exactly where I'm spending, shows me exactly where my wealth is, basically, where it's not in a lot of ways, and where it is. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investment, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use that code. It's Locked On NBA, all one word. Locked On NBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code Locked On NBA for half off your first year. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, Locked On Rockets, being part of the show, part of, if you're listening to Locked On Mavs, it's called the Raccoon Squad. That's what we call our listeners. You call Locked On Rockets fans anything?
The Hounds. We released the Hounds over at LOR. HOUNDS.
I knew that. I didn't want to say it out loud, though. Thanks for listening every day. We're back here, Locked On Mavs, Locked On Rockets crossover. And
I didn't come here to have pot shots taken at me, Nick. All right, you got your thing. Have fun with the Raccoon Squad. Your little, oh my God, the cotton candy, the podcast. You're running to it. Yeah, we got the Hounds. All right, we got some dogs over here in Houston. All right, Nick.
All right. Ask me about the Mavs and don't talk about Luka at all.
I'm gonna, hey, that's our do the ding. That's already our one Luka mention. All right, you used it, you burned it on that. How dare you? You took the pleasure away from. All right, so anyways, look, here's where I want to start. The Mavericks, the line about defense wins championships.
Yeah,
if you're in Dallas, TBD. We'll see if that's the case for Nico Harrison. Last season, the Mavericks ranked 20th in defense. They were also just 18th in offense, a little below middle of the pack in both regards. They dealt with injuries. They dealt with, a lot of guys missing time, all that good stuff. But you're adding Cooper Flagg. You're still not coming into the season likely at full strength. But I want to ask you, between the offense and the defensive numbers, which do you expect to increase more next season and why?
Oh, the defense for sure. The offense may go down. The offense will be from 18th. I don't know that they're going to be better than that. That's my big concern for the Mavericks for sure. But their defense, I mean, you just think about the players they're going to throw out there. Like Cooper Flagg is going to come in as maybe like the third best defender in the starting lineup between Anthony Davis and Dereck Lively. Like Dereck Lively's a very good rim protector. Anthony Davis is a defensive player of the year, like perennial contender. He is going to raise the level of this defense for sure. And then you bring Cooper Flagg and you're like, all right, well, you just got to roam around, guard some perimeter guys, be yourself. And he is a tenacious defender. Like his defensive game is probably better than his offensive game. And that may start at the beginning of his career. I'm curious to see how he looks for sure. And then you have Dereck Lively. You've got size and Daniel Gafford coming off the bench too, where he was a pretty good rim protector, struggled in some other areas defensively, but you've got rim protection all over the place. PJ Washington coming off the bench, Najee Marshall coming off the bench. Maybe their best perimeter defenders are also coming off the bench in Caleb Martin and Max Christie. And so you can put together some really good defensive lineups. They're bringing back Dante Exum as well, a bigger guard that can defend. And Klay was like not terrible last year too. So like you're putting together like a really good defensive lineup right there, outside of a couple of guards that I won't mention for other reasons. But the defense may get worse, but the offense is the defense will get better. The offense is the one I have concerns about.
My bonus question for you then is, I don't know if you've done your board bets yet or if you haven't gotten to them yet, but where do you think they finish defensively next year?
I think they're top 5 defense.
Ooh,
I think it's hard to imagine if you're getting enough games from Anthony Davis, for sure, which is always the big question.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to imagine a team with Anthony Davis and Dereck Lively as the starting, like, as the starting front court, not getting to top 5 status to me, and then adding Cooper Flagg to that. The Cavs were a top 5 defense at one point, and they have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland starting right at the guard spots. If you got 2 bigs like that, you can put together a really good defense, and so I think that's where they'll finish. And they kind of have to. Like, if they want to be successful, they have to rely on that defense, because I don't know if defense will win championships, but it's going to have to win them games in the season.
Yeah, if you want a shot at the play-in tournament or a legit playoff seed outside of the play-in tournament, right? If you're going to be a bad offense, you better have a top 5, top 3 borderline kind of defense.
Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, something about that. Hey, man, look, if AD and Dereck Lively can crash the offensive glass, anything like Alperen Sengun and Steven Adams, then maybe the Mavs have a chance to salvage a top 15 offense. There you go. That's the recipe is there. It's tried and true. Nick, just copy the Rockets from last year.
I was gonna say,
put it up on the board.
Now we're gonna be the Mavs are gonna be the offense that is like, not me, it's we, not first shot, second shot is the best shot. Like we're getting me bounds over here too.
It's like that meme where like the guy's cheating on the test and just looking over at the paper. That's Nico looking at the Rockets. He's like, what did they do last year to have all that defensive success? Yeah, Ime's cooking. All right, so we talked about maybe some of the offensive, I guess not issues, but just the lack of offense this team is going to have. Where does Cooper Flagg kind of fit into that offensive hierarchy of this team? You mentioned him, potentially, being like the 2 for this Mavericks team. How is that going to look, and kind of what are your expectations for rookie year Cooper Flagg?
Yeah, Kyrie Irving is not starting the season, may not even play during this season. If he does play, it won't be till February, March even. And so they bring in D'Angelo Russell. He's going to start at point guard, and so he's going to handle the ball a decent amount. Anthony Davis will get his shots too, right? I think he's going to lead the team in shots. He's going to be the one that gets a lot of offensive flow. And then you're like, all right, well, where else is the offense coming from? It's going to be Cooper Flagg. The summer league, couple games that he played where they put the ball in his hands was not a fluke. That was not an accident. They wanted to put the ball in his hands to show what he could do, to prove to them, all right, this is where he is offensively, and to kind of play that a little bit, because they're going to put the ball in his hands a lot. He's going to get a lot of opportunity. Nico Harrison has said this. Jason Kidd has said this about what Cooper Flagg's role is going to be, and they were excited about being able to put the ball in his hands because Kyrie is out. And so you've got a ton of play finishers: Klay Thompson, Anthony Davis, Dereck Lively, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, Max Christie as a spot up shooter, Caleb Martin as a spot up shooter, like a lot of play finishers. You don't have a lot of setup guys, and Cooper Flagg is a setup guy. He ran 300 pick and rolls as the ball handler at Duke. And because they decided, all right, we're best with putting the ball in your hands. And so I think he's going to work out some of the lumps of his offensive game early in his rookie year. And so the ball's going to be in his hands a lot. Obviously, it's going to be in D'Angelo Russell's hands a lot, but as many concerns I have about the Rockets offense, like in ball handling, I have more concerns about the Mavericks for sure. Let me be clear about that to Rockets fans. I was not trying to tout the Mavs as like this great offensive juggernaut team anymore.
That'll be a fun bet to see. Okay, which offense? Hey, look, with KD, I think the offense will be top 10. I think
who has more passes per game, the Mavericks or the Rockets next year?
Oh, that'll be a fun one to monitor. We're gonna have to tally that one up as the season goes on. I'm excited to see what rookie year Cooper Flagg looks like. I know there was some maybe some people that were less than enthused with his performances at Summer League, or felt like it left a little bit to be desired. I thought he played awesome at Summer League. I thought you saw exactly what you wanted to see out of a number 1 overall pick. So we'll see what it actually looks like once it translates to real NBA basketball against NBA level competition. And the fact that he's not even going to have Kyrie, once you get Cooper and Kyrie playing alongside each other, huge. That could be really dangerous in what is a dangerous Western Conference. Speaking of the rest of the West, right? You're dealing with a stacked Western Conference. And I know we're going to talk about, maybe talk a little bit about the Spurs here in our final segment coming up, but just as it relates to the Mavericks, what does an actual successful season look like for Dallas? Like, what is the MO going into the season, knowing that you're likely missing Kyrie for all the entire year?
I think if you asked Nico Harrison, it's to make the Western Conference Finals or to maybe go to the finals. Like, I think that's maybe.
Okay, can we ask somebody other than Nico Harrison? How's that?
He staked his reputation on it, basically. For me, it's just make the playoffs. Just make a playoff series and get Cooper Flagg playoff experience. I don't care if it's 5 games, 6 games. Like, get him playoff experience. That, to me, would be a successful season. 2, develop Cooper Flagg. 2, build chemistry with some of these guys. 2, get to the playoffs. To get and see that environment. Because I don't really expect Kyrie to be fully back for this team, even if they do. And that could be fun. And like, we'll hype it up and we'll have some fun watching him come back. And the Mavs will have a puncher's chance against anybody if Kyrie is right and hitting some shots and stuff. But I'm not going to expect them to go in and win a playoff series against a lot of teams in the West next year. And so to me, it's just get there, play some games, get Cooper Flagg that experience. To me, that's the number one thing.
I got one. No. I got one more for you. Stop, Nick. How dare you? You know what? Fine. I'll get you the next segment. Go.
We'll tease it then.
All right. Coming up, who's the name most likely to be moved, if any, on the Dallas Mavericks? Plus, what do we think of the Spurs, that other Texas team floating around? Is there a chance that the Spurs actually finish ahead of the Mavericks in the standings in the Western Conference? We're going to get there in just one moment.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs, Locked On Rockets crossovers brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. I don't know about you, but when I go golfing, which is never, don't tell 5 Hour Energy I don't golf ever. They were like, talk about your wildest golf shot that you made. Talk about the golf group that you're in. I never go golfing, but just between you and me, like when I go golfing, I get to the back 9 and I'm like, man, feel like my stroke is needing a little bit of a punch. It's needing a little bit of an extra juice. And so I take a 5 Hour Energy. And you can get them as well right now. And you can get the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavors of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick energizing shot with 5 Hour Energy. Go check them out and see what you can get. You have all kinds of like different things you can do. You can get a subscription to 5 Hour Energy so you can get them sent over and over again, which is great. But if you go to 5 Hour Energy today, that is the number 5, so 5hourenergy.com. You can use the promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order of anything. Except for a subscription. 20% off your order of anything. So go check it out. See what you can get. This offer is only valid until September 30th and cannot be used with other promotions. Use that whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36. Get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, Locked On Rockets crossover, hanging out here, having some fun. And the Maverick that's most likely to get moved, Daniel Gafford, signed a contract that is able to be moved. Even though he signed an extension, he signed a contract that is like within $1 like of being able to be moved still and being able to be traded. And so to me, that is still my answer. It's because I think optimally Anthony Davis plays a lot of 5 for this team. And as of right now, as they're constructed, he won't be playing a lot of 5 because you're probably getting 20-ish minutes of Lively, 20-ish minutes of Daniel Gafford. That leaves like what, 8 minutes of Anthony Davis at 5 potentially. And I think the Mavs may need more of that because the spacing is going to be an issue for them. And so Daniel Gafford is one of my answers for this.
So when are you and John Corrales from Locked On Celtics going to do the Anthony Simons, Daniel Gafford trade crossover pod?
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll see. It needs to happen. John Cross is banned from the show after the finals.
Still banned? Come on, get over it. It's been well over a year. Right? You guys have had plenty of other trauma to revel in since that point. So
if there's anything that Mavericks fans don't do, it's get over stuff. let's be clear about that. You can go look at the comment section probably from like yesterday and see them not getting over things.
Oh Lord have mercy. All right. Look, I want to steer the conversation towards the Spurs a little bit. Is that okay?
I had a couple Rockets more Rockets
okay, then we'll do that, and then we'll talk a little bit about Spurs at the end.
True or false? Did the Rockets double down on bigs to match up with the Mavericks because they're scared of their size?
False. The idea that they're scared of the Mavericks size is funny. I will say, I'm going to say false, like a resounding false. The Rockets doubled down on bigs because they like what they're able to do with that lineup, which is crazy because they didn't discover it until March.
Yeah.
They didn't discover it until they played the Mavs, and Anthony Davis was manhandling him in his first game back from injury, and he actually played himself into another injury of all things. But he was dominant in that first half against Houston.
And then he had a procedure on his eye too.
Yeah. So look, At the end of the day, look, I remember asking Ime Udoka all the way back in training camp, like, hey, like Alperen Sengun, Steven Adams, like maybe some double big lineups. And he's like, yeah, you'd like one of those to be a spacing big. And like Alpi has the touch, but he's not really a confident shooter. And like maybe he can get to that point. And then they just literally didn't touch it all season long until it was like kind of one of those break glass in case of emergency things against the Mavs. And they're like, you know what? Screw it. Let's throw them both out there. And it worked really well. And then like that became the thing over the next few weeks. We were like, wow, the plus minus on this lineup is crazy. And so, yeah, they doubled down on it. They re-signed Steven Adams and they went and got Clint Capella. So they have a certifiable lob threat to pair with Alperen Sengun. I have a drop for this.
Lob threat.
There it is. Good old Steven Silas. So yeah, no, it's not because of the Mavericks. It's because the Rockets think they can play really, really well with that big lineup. And a big part of what unlocks that is Sengun's versatility on both sides of the floor, actually.
Yeah, it was fascinating to me that like they barely used that Steven Adams Sengun lineup, and then all of a sudden in the playoffs it was like the go-to. It's like sometimes
it was their best lineup. It's crazy.
Sometimes all the regular season stuff doesn't matter. Coaches just throw it all out and like have these ideas in their head, and they just flesh them out in the playoffs. And it's like, wow, we could have didn't see this once. Like,
as a random aside, I do love that the NBA is trending back towards the big man. Like, I know that for a while there it was like it's still going to be a perimeter player dominated league, guards, forwards, whatever. But the fact that we have so many teams that can confidently trot out, like not just like, oh, he's a third string center, we're throwing him out there for like some, we need the additional size. It's like, no, a lot of teams in the NBA have two legitimate bigs that can actually play minutes together. And I love that trend. And I love seeing the direction the NBA is going with that.
Oh, I mean, I had a tweet that was getting some traction lately that was like, the West has so much size now. You have the Mavs with their three centers, basically. Mm-hmm. The Rockets have three centers. The Clippers bring in Brook Lopez to add to Zubac. Yeah. You've got Jonas Valanciunas playing with Jokic now. Mm-hmm. You've got Gobert and Naz Reid, and then Johan Berger, if he gets some time. He was blocking the shot in summer league.
Oh, the Grizzlies are still massive in their front court too.
Grizzlies have have some guys for sure. You've got Klingon and Yang over there with the Blazers, Wemby, and they add Cornette. Like, you just got size all over the like.
And look, I know Kelly Olynyk's not like massive, but like Kelly Olynyk, another very serviceable, versatile big to pair in San Antonio. Like, I mean, yeah, things are looking crazy in the front court in the Western Conference.
Yeah, you have to have centers in the West. Like, you're gonna get destroyed. Like, if you're a team like maybe the Sacramento Kings and Sabonis is your center, like you're gonna have a hard year. Like, that's gonna be a hard year for Sabonis. I think
the Kings are gonna have a hard year for a lot of reasons besides Sabonis. But let's just we don't have to take shots at. Sorry, Matt. Have fun.
That's not even a shot to Matt. Like, he feeds off of that. Like, we probably just gave him a show.
Honestly, there it is. What's the title? Locked On Rockets host takes shots at Sacramento Kings.
My colleagues attack me. I defend the Kings. Coming up.
There it is.
That's a YouTube title for sure.
Absolutely.
How excited are you for our guy Dorian? Because he was my favorite Maverick throughout his time. The 2022 run, he had so many memorable moments. And was just such a culture guy, and loved him, and was very upset to see him go to the Lakers. And now he's with the Rockets, and that's gonna be weird.
It's first off, I know that DFS is one of those guys that, like, you love to have him on your team. He's such an easy guy to cheer for. He's been loved by every fan base that he's ever played for, basically.
Yeah.
And I know Mavs fans were like really distraught when he got traded, right? Like, very sad. Happy to get back Kyrie, but very sad that he left, right?
Oh, conflicted. But now they're
conflicted. All right, fair. But like, for Rockets fans, it's also kind of a tough situation because a lot of Rockets fans really fell in love with Dillon Brooks. Like, Dillon Brooks is one of those guys that's like, you love to hate him when he's not on your team, and then he's an instant fan favorite the moment you're going to war with him every single night. So losing him, there's some sting there. He's stepping into some pretty sizable shoes to have to fill. He's not going to bring that same kind of Dillon Brooks fire and intensity, which is maybe for the better, because sometimes that fire and intensity from Dillon Brooks gets the better of him, and sometimes it lights the wrong fire under the team. But the fact that he's going to get the slot in, and you've got another great defensive presence on the wing, a guy who knows his role offensively, and he's not just like a spot up 3-and-D, whatever. Like, he can attack off the bounce a little bit, slasher, that kind of thing. So he brings a little bit more to the game, as opposed to like some of the questionable offensive decision-making that you would get from time to time with Dillon Brooks. I'm excited for DFS in a Rockets jersey. A lot of Rockets fans are. He's going to fit in seamlessly.
I'm excited for him to see him play next to Durant and see him play with those bigs. I think it's going to be great. Ahmed Thompson and him are going to find some chemistry. I feel like that'll be fun. Who's a player on the Rockets nobody's talking about that they should be?
That nobody's talking about that they should be?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I think Jabari Smith Jr. gets overlooked a lot. Like, he obviously hasn't quite lived up to the same level of play as his two counterparts in the 2022 draft, with Paolo Banchero being like the guy for Orlando.
Remember he was going to go number 1.
Yeah. So like, and then Banchero already an all-star, right? And then you got Chet Holmgren just won his first NBA title with, one of the youngest teams ever assembled, maybe the youngest. I can't remember if that's like a factoid or not, but so there's been, a little bit of, I guess, I don't want to say letdown for Jabari, but because he was drafted and he was thrown into such a bad situation with the Silas era Rockets, very little culture, accountability, no structure. He's basically just told, park him in the corner offensively, right? His development was kind of stagnated by that first year. And then Ime comes in and Ime has to try to make do with like the sloppy leftovers of that Rockets team. And then he has to try and find roles for everybody and make things work and play winning basketball right out of the gate. And so Jabari got kind of relegated to this like, 3-and-D role, unfortunately. And he's excelled in that role. He's done really well with it. He doesn't complain. He's a team first mentality. When he got moved to the bench for Amin Thompson to go to the starting lineup, you didn't hear a peep out of him. He's such a nice guy on and off the court, and he's a vocal guy. I really feel like the addition of KD, and Jabari's talked about this a lot. He loved watching KD growing up. One of his favorite players. Every tall guy wanted to be KD, right? You see his dribble move, see him get to his spots on the floor. If Jabari can learn even like a little bit of like get just like 25% of KD's bag, Jabari has a really special chance to be like an actual offensive weapon and not just like a role player, plug and play, sit in the corner, wait for your spot. Like him at the elbows when he elevates over a defender. There was one game, I want to say it was not this past year, but 2 seasons ago, where Jabari hit like 8 middies against the Mavericks. I don't know if you remember this.
I remember that. I remember that because were you there?
I drove up.
You were at the game, and I looked at you and I said, I think if Jabari can do this, I think he might be the best of the young Rockets. I think that was like my takeaway from that game, because he looks so good.
There's a lot of polish to his game. There's also a lot that hasn't been really refined, right? And he's working on the ball handling this offseason. He's really working on his fluidity. I don't know, again, that he'll ever be as graceful as KD is on the court at 7 feet tall. That's why KD is who he is. Yeah. But being able to be in the lab with him every single day, really learning from him, having KD, over his shoulder say, hey, when you do this or when they guard you this way, don't do this, make this move instead, or do this differently next time. That's going to be so huge for his development. KD is going to help the development of all the Rockets young players, but I think specifically Jabari is going to learn the most from KD because their skills, their styles of play are so similar, or I guess in what Jabari could achieve or could become is similar to what KD is right now.
We didn't talk about the Spurs at all. I'm okay with it.
I want to just ask you one. Just one.
Go for it.
You
gotta say the thing though.
Do I gotta say what thing? What thing?
Say one more thing.
Oh, one more thing. One more thing. Sorry, Isaac, I took your bit. There's a chance. If you ask me, I think I'm taking the Mavericks over the Spurs in the seedings race. I won't ask you where they're seeded, but there's a non-insignificant chance that the Spurs are better than the Mavericks this year, right? Or is that just me?
The Mavs are better than, yeah. I mean, if Anthony Davis is healthy, and we don't know about Victor Wembanyama. Like, let's be like,
no. I said Spurs over the Mavs. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think the Spurs could be better. I would not be
surprised by that, because we're going through our Locked On Top 100 right now. There are not many players I'm putting ahead of Victor Wembanyama right now. Like, he's so good. He's going to be Defensive Player of the Year if he stays healthy. Like that, it just is his award right now. I think there's a case that Anthony Davis could get it, but only if Victor Wembanyama doesn't play enough games. Like, that may be the only chance that he gets to get Defensive Player of the Year. And so he's that good. They added so much talent. They just got so much going on that maybe if like it's too clunky, the De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama thing doesn't work out as well as we hope. They have all these young pieces and it's like too many mouths to feed kind of deal, too much development that needs to happen that isn't. Young players don't always lead to wins, and our teams both know that in certain instances.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's the case for the Spurs not being better than the Mavs. But when you have a player like Victor Wembanyama, it just makes everything so much easier for everybody else. Like, I don't know, watching Carter Bryant defend, like him and Wemby defending is just going to be unfair, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, but like you said, getting those reps for, Dylan Harper, is he going to have enough developmental runway with like De'Aaron Fox and Wemby trying to find their chemistry and all that? And Carter Bryant's kind of plug and play, but like still, I don't know. That's the race between the Spurs and Mavs to see where they both finish in a stacked Western Conference is going to be a ton of fun. We're gonna have to do one of these. We're gonna have to revisit this little Texas crossover at some point in the season for sure.
Definitely. There you go. Check out Locked On Rockets, Locked On Mavs. Great stuff all the time throughout the offseason. We'll be here. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs, Locked On Rockets crossover.
Peace out.
Boom.